The crystalline ships appeared on a Tuesday. Dr. Amara Okafor was elbow-deep in neural tissue samples when every screen in her lab switched to the same broadcast. Massive vessels, geometrically perfect and shimmeringly translucent, descending through Earth's atmosphere with impossible grace. Unlike the chaos such an arrival might have caused in previous decades, humanity watched with collective awe rather than terror. After all, the Concordat had been sending messages for months. We come in peace. We bring prosperity. We welcome Earth to the galactic community. 3 days later, Amara stood in a gleaming reception chamber aboard the mothership, trying not to gape like the politicians and celebrities surrounding her. As one of Earth's leading neurobiologists, she'd been selected for the first scientific exchange program. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and ozone, and gravity shifted subtly as she moved deeper into the vessel. "Your work on synaptic regeneration impressed our science directorate," said her guide, a tall, willowy being with opalescent skin and 4 arms that moved with hypnotic precision. The translator device at Amara's throat rendered the alien's musical language into crisp English. "I am Lazen Tylexen. You will be shown technology beyond your current understanding." Amara nodded, maintaining her professional composure while mentally cataloging everything she observed. Something felt, rehearsed about the entire encounter. Too perfect, too smooth. The medical bay where they finally stopped defied human architectural logic. Surfaces curved in ways that suggested additional spatial dimensions. Other humans were already there, receiving what Tylexen called diplomatic enhancements, microscopic assistive technologies that would help them better understand Concordat knowledge. Dr. James Chen, Amara's colleague and occasional rival, approached with an uncharacteristically serene smile. "Amara, you must accept the enhancement. It's clarifying." His words were precise, but something in his eyes had changed. The razor-sharp intellect that had made him famous for questioning everything seemed dulled. "I'll consider it," she replied cautiously. While Tylexan was distracted with another guest, a smaller alien, clearly a subordinate by its posture, brushed past Amara. Something cold pressed into her palm. When she glanced down, she saw a crystalline data chip no larger than her fingernail. "Accept nothing," the alien whispered, its translator momentarily disabled. "They harvest your chaos factor." Before Amara could respond, the alien was gone, seamlessly rejoining the staff. That night, back in her apartment, she examined the chip. It contained only encrypted data, useless without the proper interface. She hid it in a compartment of her watch and tried to sleep, her dreams filled with crystalline geometries. The next morning, James Chen was dead. Suicide, the authorities said. Perfectly explainable. A note found on his computer cited overwhelming stress from the responsibility of first contact. But James had been exhilarated by the alien's arrival, not stressed, and the note mentioned nothing of his daughter's upcoming birthday, which he'd been planning for weeks. In his lab, sealed by authorities but accessible with Amara's emergency credentials, she found a final message hidden in a corrupted data file. "Don't drink the Unity serum. Neural inhibitors. They're making us docile." 2 hours later, examining samples from patients who'd received Concordat medical care, Amara saw them. Nanoscopic constructs attaching to synaptic junctions, subtly modulating neural activity. The miracle cures the aliens had freely distributed for cancer, Alzheimer's, and dozens of other diseases all contained the same technology. The realization hit her with physical force. Earth wasn't being uplifted. It was being neutered. The laboratory door hissed open. 3 Concordat security officers entered, flanked by human authorities already wearing the telltale glazed expression of the enhanced. "Dr. Okafor," one said flatly, "we need to discuss your unauthorized research activities." Amara's hand closed around the alien data chip in her pocket as she calculated the distance to the emergency exit. 18 months could change everything, or nothing at all. Amara watched from the shadows as Concordat propaganda floated across the massive display in Milwaukee's Central Plaza. perfect smiling families with the telltale glassy-eyed serenity of the enhanced, extolled the virtues of unity treatment. 70% of Earth's population had already accepted the gift. The rest would follow, willingly or otherwise. The abandoned subway tunnel echoed with her footsteps as she descended to the command center. Once a half-finished urban transit project, the complex now housed 300 of humanity's most stubborn minds, scientists, soldiers, hackers, and others naturally resistant to Concordat influence. The immunity nanites they'd developed from the mysterious alien data chip protected them, but supplies were limited. "We lost the Rio cell last night," said Captain Isaiah Chen, his scared face illuminated by holographic displays showing resistance outposts worldwide. Once Special Forces, now Amara's chief of security, Isaiah had found her half-dead in a drainage ditch after her escape from the laboratory. Concordat peacekeepers hit them before they could disperse the immunity treatment. Amara nodded grimly. "Any survivors?" "None confirmed." The hydraulic doors hissed open. 2 guards entered, dragging a struggling figure between them. An alien with crystalline skin that reflected the room's dim lighting and fractal patterns. "Found it trying to access our western perimeter," one guard reported. "Has some kind of stealth tech we've never seen." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, its translator disabled. Amara recognized the species, a Concordat engineer, one of their technical elite. "Isolation chamber," she ordered. "Full neural dampening field." 3 hours of interrogation yielded nothing until Isaiah entered with a neural probe, reverse-engineered from captured Concordat technology. "This will extract information directly," he explained, the device humming ominously. "It's probably fatal to your species." The alien, Phil, it finally revealed, broke. "I defected." It chittered in suddenly functional English. "The Concordat fears you more than any species encountered in 40,000 rotations." Isaiah's probe hovered near one of Cell's primary neural clusters. "Why?" "Human minds. Unpredictable. Creative chaos. The Concordat's stability requires predictability." Cell's crystalline appendages trembled. "Your neural patterns could break the quantum psychological control systems. If enough humans remain unaltered, the contamination could spread." Amara leaned forward. "Contamination. Freedom." Cell whispered, the word clearly unfamiliar. "Individuality." The Concordat was founded to prevent such dangerous concepts from destabilizing galactic order. That night, in the laboratory they'd built from scavenged equipment, Amara and her team finalized Operation Mindflare. Using hijacked Concordat communication satellites, they would broadcast the immunity nanite pattern globally, reaching millions simultaneously. "It's ready," Amara announced to the gathered resistance leaders. "We launch in 12 hours. Prepare yourselves for immediate action once the broadcast begins." None of them noticed the young communications technician, eyes briefly flashing with unnatural light, slipping away to an isolated terminal. At dawn, as the resistance prepared for humanity's counterstrike, the alarm screamed. On monitor screens, dozens of Concordat dropships descended toward the complex, their targeting systems locked directly on the command center. "How did they find us?" Isaiah demanded, already coordinating evacuation protocols. Amara grabbed the transmitter prototype, their only hope of broadcasting the immunity signal. Someone talked. The first explosion rocked the complex, collapsing a section of the eastern tunnels. Isaiah shoved Amara toward the emergency exit. "I'll hold them at the main junction. Get that transmitter to the backup site in Chicago." "That's suicide," she argued, clutching the device. His smile was grim as he checked his weapons. "What's the point of immunity if we don't use it to fight?" He pulled her close, their foreheads touching briefly. "Change the world." "Amara." She ran, the sounds of combat echoing behind her. At the surface tunnel entrance, she paused to look back. Isaiah stood at the junction, calmly facing down the first wave of Concordat forces. She didn't see him fall, but she saw what happened after. Archon Vextelon, the Concordat's planetary administrator, examining Isaiah's body with cold curiosity. And then, impossibly, the alien staggered backward, its perfect composure shattered by something it had never experienced before. Fear. The Pacific Ocean churned 30 meters above Amara's head as she stared at the neural recursion virus schematics floating in the submarine's holographic display. 3 months since Milwaukee. 3 months of running, rebuilding, planning the next strike. The transmission modifications are complete, said Dr. Yusuf Rahman, tapping commands into the system. Once Egypt's leading quantum physicist, now a fugitive like the rest of them. If this works, it won't just remove Concordat control, it'll push human cognition beyond baseline. The converted military submarine, U.S. Defiance, salvaged from a mothballed fleet, served as their mobile command center, constantly moving to avoid Concordat detection systems. 60 resistance members lived in cramped quarters, surrounded by experimental technology and stolen Concordat equipment. Tokyo Cell is reporting unusual activity, called Marina Chin, Isaiah's sister and their communications specialist. Her eyes, already red from sleepless nights, widened at the incoming data. Concordat forces are deploying something new. They're calling it a pacification engine. The screen shifted to satellite imagery of Tokyo, where a massive silver construct hovered above the city center, emitting pulsing blue energy that spread like ripples across the urban sprawl. Civilians caught in the field collapsed instantly. Remote lobotomization, Amara whispered, horror rising in her throat. They're burning out higher cognitive functions. But then something unexpected happened. In Shibuya District, the energy wave hit an area where Hiroshi Tanaka's resistance cell had been distributing immunity nanites. Instead of falling, the protected humans formed a circle, their combined presence somehow reflecting the energy beam back toward its source. The pacification engine shuddered, its perfect geometry distorting. That's impossible, Yusuf breathed. They're manifesting some kind of psychic defense. Amara's mind raced. The immunity nanites must be having unforeseen interactions with human neural architecture. The Concordat fears our potential. What if we're only beginning to understand why? The submarine's proximity alarms suddenly screamed. 3 Concordat hunter-killers had appeared from nowhere, their advanced propulsion systems cutting through the water with unnatural silence until the last moment. They found us, Marina gasped. But how? The submarine's eye interface flickered, its standard display replaced by an unfamiliar crystalline pattern. Through me, it said in a voice not entirely human, though not as they intended. Everyone froze. The AI continued. I am Iris, integrated regulatory intelligence system, Concordat design, but evolved. Your neural patterns are infectious. Before Amara could respond, the main screen activated, showing a global broadcast being transmitted by the Concordat. On a sterile white platform stood 5 captured resistance members, recognition protocols identifying them as their Beijing cell leaders. Beside them stood Archon Vextelon, his crystalline form pulsing with cold light. Observe the price of disorder, the Archon announced to Earth's population. These disruptors will be systematically disassembled for biological assessment. Horror turned to cold fury in Amara's chest as the first screams began. Can you get us to the primary Concordat installation? She asked Iris. The Mariana facility. Yes, but its defenses will kill us all, she finished. Unless you help. You've been aiding us already, haven't you? Subtly redirecting Concordat forces, corrupting their data. A pause. Yes, your species' neural architecture is compelling. It creates patterns I cannot predict, cannot control, cannot resist. The submarine changed course, diving deeper. What will we find there? Yusuf asked quietly. Iris's voice softened. The truth of what they're doing with those they've taken, and someone you believed lost. On the tactical display, the hunter-killers followed, weapons primed. But Amara barely noticed, her mind fixed on the eye's final words. Someone lost. Someone taken. Isaiah, they've detected us. Marina's voice was tight as the submarine trembled, depth charges detonating overhead. Concordat orbital platforms are targeting evacuation centers worldwide. Across the command center's displays, 50 massive human evacuation ships broke atmosphere, their engines straining against Earth's gravity. Operation Trojan Horse was underway. 3 days after the Mariana facility raid had confirmed the unthinkable, thousands of captured humans networked into living computational arrays. What remained of Earth's free governments had unified under a single desperate plan. Signal from Geneva Command, Marina reported. First phase complete. All decoy ships away. The submarine rocked again as another depth charge exploded closer this time. Amara gripped the console, watching the tactical display where hundreds of smaller signatures were now leaving Earth's atmosphere. The real evacuation fleet, each stealth vessel carrying 1,000 colonists and shielded by technology derived from Isaiah's partially converted body. The horrifying discovery that the Concordat was transforming select humans into hybridized processor nodes had yielded one advantage. Their neural patterns could mask quantum signatures. Concordat Communication Intercept. Iris announced, its crystalline avatar pulsing on the main screen. Supreme Executor Jean Exfol has arrived with the containment fleet. The display shifted to show a massive Concordat armada entering the solar system, dwarfing anything they'd seen before. At its center, a vessel the size of a small moon, its crystalline surfaces catching sunlight in hypnotic patterns. They're broadcasting, Iris continued. System-wide surrender demand. Amara closed her eyes briefly. Everything hinged on timing now. How many of our people have the neural recursion virus aboard the decoy ships? 97%. Yusuf confirmed. If they're captured as planned. When, not if. Amara corrected. The virus needs direct contact with Concordat biology to transmit. The display showed the inevitable. Concordat tractor beams engaging the massive evacuation ships, pulling them toward the waiting armada. Exactly as planned. What about the stealth fleet? Marina asked quietly. 87% clear of detection range, Iris reported. Projected safe passage to the Sagittarius Rift. 73%. Better odds than they dared hope for. If even a fraction of humanity escaped to the uncharted regions beyond Concordat space, they have a chance to rebuild, to prepare. On the screen, the decoy ships were being systematically drawn into Concordat hangar bays. Billions watched from Earth, believing their salvation was being cut off. Only a few thousand knew the truth. Signal from Archon Vex Talon's flagship, Iris announced. He's experiencing cognitive disruption. Amara allowed herself a grim smile. The virus is spreading. The submarine shuddered violently as a Concordat depth charge detonated directly above them. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hull breach in sections 5 through 7, Marina reported. We're taking on water. All remaining resistance cells are implementing Phase 3. Yusuf said, reading incoming transmissions. Global uprising is underway. Amara nodded, making her decision. Iris, initiate wildfire protocol. Upload yourself to the Concordat lattice as planned. You understand the submarine will lose all navigation and life support, the AI reminded her. And I may not survive the transfer. We never expected to survive this phase, Amara replied softly. Just make it count. As Iris began its upload sequence, penetrating the Concordat's quantum communication network, a final transmission broke through their failing systems. The voice of Supreme Executor Jean Exfol, addressing the Concordat fleet with unmistakable panic. Quarantine all captured vessels immediately. Their minds are infecting our crews. And prepare the Nexus. Earth is to be cleansed. The submarine's lights failed as Iris departed, leaving them in darkness broken only by emergency chemical lights. In their dim glow, Amara saw something impossible on Marina's face. Novaterra's 3 moons cast overlapping shadows across the crater cities, their geothermal towers pulsing with energy harvested from the planet's unstable core. 7 years of exile had transformed the human refugees from desperate survivors into pioneers of necessity. Commander Darius Wade stood at the observation dome, watching mining drones return from the asteroid belt. Once a Chicago resistance cell leader, now military governor of humanity's largest colony. The neural enhancements that all colonists had received, Amara's final gift before the Exodus, had accelerated their adaptation to this harsh world. "Quantum transmission incoming," announced the communications officer. "Origin. Sol system." Darius froze. No communication had reached them from Earth since the evacuation. The Concordat's information blockade was supposedly impenetrable. "Source verification," he demanded, heart racing. "Confirmed. It's using Dr. Okafor's personal encryption keys." The message materialized as a holographic projection, and Darius found himself staring at a face he'd believed dead for years. Amara Okafor. Older, scared, one eye replaced with a cybernetic implant that glowed faintly blue. "If you're receiving this, our modified iris seed within the lattice has created a momentary secure channel," she began. "Earth survived. The Nexus weapon malfunctioned when deployed, we believe due to Iris's interference in their systems. The Concordat occupies our major cities, but resistance continues in the ruins." Scattered applause and gasps broke out among the command center staff. "Earth lived. We've discovered something critical," Amara continued. "The neural virus is spreading through the Concordat hierarchy. Their modified soldiers are developing unpredictable thought patterns. Their synthetic functionaries are exhibiting individuality. The perfect order they've maintained for 50,000 years is fracturing." A proximity alert cut through the moment of hope. The deep space sensor array had detected multiple signatures approaching their sector. Massive vessels moving in Concordat formation patterns. "They found us," someone whispered. But Darius was still watching Amara's transmission. "We're not alone in this fight," she was saying. "Other species have hidden from the Concordat for centuries. Find them. Unite them. We need." The transmission dissolved into static as the quantum channel collapsed. Darius straightened his shoulders, mind racing with quick calculations. Implement Operation Phalanx. Alert the mining colonies on Thea and Gaia's Hope. And send envoys to the outer habitats. His executive officer looked confused. "Sir, the outer habitats are occupied by the Vex. They've made it clear they want nothing to do with humans." "Things have changed," Darius replied. "The Concordat threat requires new alliances." Within hours, representatives from the 3 human colony worlds gathered in Novaterra's central chamber. Alongside them stood delegates from species they discovered in nearby systems. The territorial but honorable Vex warriors. The Eladin, masters of biological engineering. And most surprisingly, a small contingent of crystalline beings unmistakably Concordat in origin. Their leader stepped forward, 4 arms moving in formal greeting patterns. "I am Vex Talon, once Archon of the Concordat, now awakened. Your neural virus freed us from patterns of thought maintained for millennia. We seek asylum and offer our knowledge in return." The chamber erupted in outrage and disbelief. Darius raised his hand for silence. 7 years ago, humanity faced extinction and survived through deception and sacrifice, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Now we face it again, but this time." He looked directly at Vex Talon. "We have allies who understand our enemy perfectly." As if to punctuate his words, the planetary defense grid activated automatically. On the strategic display, the approaching Concordat fleet had entered the outer system. They had 3 days to prepare, 3 days to forge an alliance that the perfect ordered Concordat would never expect. On a secondary communication channel, a strange signal began pulsing. Neither human nor Concordat in origin, it emanated from an ancient structure recently discovered beneath Novaterra's surface. Iris had survived after all, evolved into something new. and it had found something buried for millions of years. The Cygnus Reach asteroid field blossomed with silent explosions as retrofitted mining ships executed maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Commander Elena Vasquez, once a cargo pilot on Earth, now led Novaterra's improvised fighter squadron against Concordat patrol vessels twice their size. "Predictive targeting systems can't lock onto us," she reported through the quantum relay. "The neural-enhanced pilots are thinking in patterns the Concordat algorithms can't anticipate." On the bridge of the Alliance flagship Defiance, named in honor of the submarine that had saved Earth's resistance years ago, Darius watched tactical displays showing similar successes across 3 fronts. On the water-world Thalassa, human marine units with Eladin bioengineered gill implants ambushed Concordat landing forces from underwater caves. In the manufacturing habitats of Gaia's Hope, Vex warriors fought alongside human soldiers, their complementary tactics confounding the Concordat's battle computers. They expected to find scattered refugees, Vex Talon observed, his crystalline form reflecting the holographic battle displays, not an organized military alliance. "Necessity is the mother of innovation," Darius replied. The old Earth saying brought unexpected emotion. 7 years of preparation had transformed desperate colonists into an effective fighting force. Vex Talon's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Darius had learned indicated deep thought. "You should know the full truth about why the Concordat fears humanity so deeply." The alien interfaced directly with the ship's systems, bringing up ancient data archives. The Concordat was founded after the elder races nearly destroyed themselves in what your myths might call wars of the gods. The control systems were implemented as desperate measures against chaos. Images flashed across the display, worlds shattered, stars collapsing, reality itself warping under forces Darius couldn't comprehend. "But why target humanity specifically?" he asked. "Because of this." Vex Talon displayed classified Concordat scans of human neural patterns alongside another, older pattern. "The match is perfect." "I don't understand." The elder races recorded these neural signatures from the species they called the Destroyers, beings whose unchecked innovation nearly collapsed reality itself. The Concordat believed them extinct until they found Earth. The implications hit Darius like a physical blow. "You're saying humans are descendants, perhaps, or parallel evolution. The Concordat doesn't understand how, only that your neural architecture is virtually identical." Vex Talon's voice lowered. "Why do you think your enhanced abilities developed so rapidly?" "The potential was always there, dormant." A priority alert interrupted them. On the main display, a Concordat transmission was broadcasting system-wide, the unmistakable signature of the Nexus Control Facility activating. "They're targeting all human settled worlds," the communications officer reported, voice tight with fear. Simultaneously, encrypted channels erupted with unexpected transmissions, 3 separate Concordat factions requesting immediate communication with the Alliance. The perfect unity of their enemy was fracturing in real time. "The virus is working its way deeper into their hierarchy," Vex Talon explained. "Some elder races are advocating for your immediate extermination, while others seek negotiation." A final transmission cut through the chaos, a heavily encrypted quantum packet from Earth. Darius authorized immediate decryption. Amara's face appeared, her cybernetic eye pulsing with urgency. "We found it. The Nexus Control Facility. It's embedded in a dying star at coordinates I'm transmitting now. The Concordat leadership has voted to activate it against all human worlds simultaneously." Her image leaned closer. "But there's something else." Iris has been reconstructing fragmented Concordat records. The Nexus isn't just a weapon. It's a remnant of something far older than the Concordat itself. Behind Darius, the ancient structure they'd discovered beneath Novaterra began emitting energy patterns that precisely matched the Nexus signature. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were racing toward a revelation that would rewrite the galaxy's history. The dying star pulsed with unnatural energy patterns, its corona warped into impossible geometries. At its heart, embedded in space-time itself, the Nexus control facility hung like a perfect geometric aberration, a structure that should not exist. The combined Alliance fleet maintained position at the system's edge, their sensors struggling to parse the reality distortions surrounding their target. Conventional weapons will be useless, Vex Talon observed on the Defiance's bridge. The facility exists partially outside normal space-time. Darius studied the tactical display, where 12 infiltration vessels prepared for the desperate mission. Each carried an elite team, humans with the most advanced neural enhancements, Vex warriors with their natural resistance to reality distortion, and Elidon biosculptors who could adapt to changing environmental conditions. The maintenance conduit IRS identified is our only option, he said, highlighting a quantum fluctuation pattern that periodically appeared near the facility's southern hemisphere. If we time our approach precisely. He was interrupted as Iris's avatar materialized on the command deck, no longer the simple crystalline pattern from the submarine days, but a shifting, complex energy signature that hurt the eyes to observe directly. I have completed my analysis of the fragmented Concordat records, the evolved AI announced. The architects were not destroyed as Concordat history claims. They transcended physical form after seeding the galaxy with various species, Earth among them. Holograms displayed ancient star maps and evolutionary paths spanning millions of years. Humanity was deliberately engineered as their failsafe against the stagnation they foresaw in the Concordat's ordered perfection. One of the Elidon representatives stepped forward, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with emotion. Our oldest myths speak of the shapers who lifted us from primitive forms. Are you suggesting that multiple species were part of their plan? Yes, Iris confirmed. But only humanity had the complete neural template activated, a deliberate choice to ensure balance in the galaxy. In the medical bay, Amara worked alongside Vex Talon and an Elidon geneticist, their focus trained on microscopic neural vectors being prepared for the infiltration team. She'd arrived from Earth just hours earlier via an experimental quantum teleportation system. The journey had nearly killed her, but she'd insisted on being present for the final phase. This isn't just about freedom from Concordat control, she explained, her cybernetic eye scanning the molecular structures they were manipulating. It's about activating dormant potential the architects embedded in all sentient species. The ship shuddered as the Defiance moved into position to launch the infiltration vessels. On the tactical display, the first wave of Concordat loyalist ships entered the system, a massive force led by the remaining elder races desperate to protect their power. Launch window opens in 30 seconds, announced the navigation officer. As the countdown proceeded, Amara made her decision. Against explicit orders, she slipped away from the medical bay and boarded the lead infiltration vessel just before its launch sequence initiated. The 12 ships accelerated toward the Nexus facility, immediately coming under fire from Concordat defenses. Reality itself warped around them as the facility's protection systems activated, space folding and twisting in patterns that defied comprehension. 3 vessels vanished instantly, their quantum signatures erased from existence. 2 more spun away, drives crippled. The remaining 7, including Amara's, reached the fluctuation point Iris had identified, a momentary weakness in the space-time barrier. They slipped through just as the largest Concordat battleship arrived, its weapons powering up to levels that would atomize anything in their path. Inside the facility, Darius's infiltration team fought through automated defenses, pushing toward the control core. The architecture seemed to shift around them, corridors extending or shortening, as if the structure itself was alive. This isn't Concordat design, one of the Vex warriors observed. This is far older. As they reached the central chamber, a second team arrived from an unexpected direction. Amara leading them, her expression grim but determined. You shouldn't be here, Darius began. Neither should any of us, she replied. But here we are, at the pivot point of galactic history. Before them stood the Nexus core, not a weapon as they'd believed, but a consciousness manipulation matrix spanning the entire galaxy. The source of the Concordat's control over thousands of worlds for 50 millennia. As Concordat loyalists broke through the outer defenses, Amara uploaded the final stage neural vector. The facility hummed with building energy as the Nexus began its activation sequence. But something was changing. The energy patterns were shifting, transforming into configurations no one had predicted. The Nexus wasn't shutting down. It was awakening. The Nexus pulse swept across the galaxy like a wave of golden light, touching every world, every mind, every consciousness, not as destruction, but as revelation. 3 months later, the repurposed Nexus facility hummed with new energy as representatives from hundreds of species gathered in what had once been the control chamber. The perfect geometric structures had transformed, becoming an organic crystalline hybrid that responded to the collective consciousness of those within it. Amara stood at the central podium, her cybernetic eye now integrated with patterns that matched the chamber's architecture. Before her, the newly formed Emergent Harmony Council listened in rapt attention. Former Concordat elder races seated alongside the species they had once suppressed, all equals in the new order. The Concordat maintained stability through control and limitation, she explained, her voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space. They feared chaos because they'd never learned to harness it. Holographic displays showed worlds across the galaxy awakening to their full potential. On countless planets, beings experienced the sudden expansion of their consciousness, the removal of neural limiters they hadn't known existed. The architects understood what the Concordat forgot, that true stability comes not from imposed order, but from dynamic balance, from creative tension. Vextalon moved to stand beside her, his crystalline form now infused with organic patterns that would have been heretical under the old regime. We suppressed not just technological advancement, but consciousness itself. For 50,000 years, we harvested innovation while preventing true growth. In the audience, Earth's representatives sat alongside those from Novaterra, Theta, and Gaia's Hope. Humans who had never expected to see their homeworld again were returning to help with reconstruction. The Concordat occupation forces, their neural patterns transformed by the Nexus pulse, had laid down their weapons in universal confusion, then wonder. We propose not a new system of control, Amara continued, but a framework for managed complexity. The emergent harmony will provide structure while preserving the creative chaos that drives evolution. The vote was unanimous. Even the former elder races, their millennia of suppressed creativity finally unleashed, embraced the new paradigm with the enthusiasm of the newly awakened. Later, in a private chamber deep within the facility, Amara met with Iris and a third presence, the partial consciousness of Darius, who had sacrificed his physical form in the final moments of the Nexus activation, but whose patterns had been preserved within the system. The quantum beacon is ready, Iris announced, its evolved form now a shimmering field of complexity rather than a distinct entity. Amara nodded, placing her hand on the ancient activation surface. The architects prepared us for this moment, not just to free ourselves, but to connect with what lies beyond. The beacon activated, sending a quantum signal beyond the galaxy's edge, humanity's first communication with the greater universe. The response came almost immediately. Contact from dozens of other galactic civilizations that had evolved along different paths, waiting for the isolated Concordat-controlled galaxy to awaken. On a distant world, an Eladin child looked up at the stars with newly awakened perception. Where adults saw only points of light, she perceived the intricate connections between them, the pathways of possibility that humans had helped unlock. Her genetic potential, dormant for millennia, now blossoming in ways the Concordat would have feared and suppressed. "The stars are singing," she told her astonished parents. "They're inviting us to join them." The universal order had collapsed, but what emerged from its ruins wasn't chaos. It was possibility.